Good evening. How are you guys? Oh, Nuha. Nuha looks so pretty in red. Should we embarrass Nuha? Okay, so if you're standing up, I get to harass you. That's the deal now. How are you guys? Oh, come on. How are you guys? Liven up. So exciting. My name is Maya Saf. I'm really excited to be here. I'm even more excited that you guys are here. It is an honor for us to have you. You think I need it louder? I'm pretty loud. I'm fine. I am your host for tonight. Lucky you. There's another event, so this is cool that you showed up to this one. There's a comedy event that you guys are missing out on, so I'm going to try to make that up to you, okay? I'll make it up to you, inshallah. Some people really don't like to talk about themselves. I'm not one of them. So you get to hear about me first, and then I'll tell you about these beautiful people up here. So I'll do a quick intro of myself. I'm a California girl who became a Dubai girl. Yeah, I did a sound check. So Alia is my co-producer of this event, so she's going to be doing a lot of checks on me, which is fine. I'll introduce Alia and what I do. So I've been here, say, for the past 16, 17 years. I just moved to Jordan like 2 months ago. Yeah, see, look at her face. Look at Rima's face. She's like, see, this is the part where you all go, aww. You can also say boo. No, Jordan isn't bad. I'm just not used to it. That's all. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. They just don't get my humor. So I went like a bakery. I went into a bakery and I was like, I had a loaf of white bread and I was looking for wheat bread. And so I said to the guy, I said, do you have brown bread? And he said, no, mafi. And I was like, okay, if I take this loaf and I put it in the sun, will it become brown? And it just went, shoo. Like he just stared for like a good few minutes, and I was like, you know what, never mind, never mind. And this has kind of been happening with me in Jordan, so it's not, my humor isn't working there. Either I'm not funny there, or they're just not good in their humor. It's them. So, so I just moved, so like a few months ago. Like 2-3 months ago. So besides being a mama, I'm a humanitarian aid worker. I work with an NGO in Jordan. We work with Syrian refugees, urban refugees. What else? I'm doing my postdoctoral studies, so I get to study the people I'm working with. A community builder, as I was taught. I was by Zaina. So we can get started, I think. Now you've heard enough about me. I'm going to give you a moment just to do a background on what's happening here. So basically, first, thank you to the Pullman for allowing us use of the venue. Thank you, Pullman. This is their newly launched artist playground. It's the artist playground by Pullman, who's in partnership with IFDC's. You know how if you can't see, you wanna sit up here? I can harass you much better if you sit up here. So with IFDC's Preda Cover Buyers Lane. So just to let you know, all the art that you see here is for sale. Anything that you see here is for sale. If you are interested in buying me something, it's this one I want. This one is by Mus'ab al-Reyes, who is the son of Abdul Qadir al-Reyes. So please, feel free. I'd be honored to hang that in my home. How much it is? Doesn't really matter, Alia. Let's not put a price tag. See, you upset the mic. Okay, so we're in the tea lounge. So this is the tea lounge by Dilma. They're going to provide you with, sorry, there goes your name. They're going to provide you with welcome drinks. After you've had your first welcome drink, please order something else. Please order something else. So that's how we say thank you, by giving us to them, by them giving us this space. You guys get to order stuff for them, but please pay for it, because I don't want to chase you down the hall. So you get the first drinks on them, and then the rest is on you. What else can I tell you? So let me just tell you really quick, the background on TYG, how this event started was TYG is Teach Your Gift. So Teach Your Gift was an event started originally, Alia Khan, who was doing what we were calling a TED Talk living room talk. So she was having speakers in her house. I was doing something else where I was having events, and so we kind of pulled together and we formed this teacher gift night. And it's basically just that we invite speakers to inspire, we invite speakers to motivate, and what I call spiritualate, which is to bring spirituality into this worldly world. So that's what the speakers will do for us this evening. And I've intentionally chosen an all-female panel. I've consciously chosen that they all be from different aspects. So we've got Rania Hadi. She's going to be the moderator for this evening. I'll do the bios really briefly, and I'll post all their bios on our Instagram page. The bios read into a book. The only thing they've missed out of their bios is their birth story. So I'm not going to tell you their entire bios. But they are very fascinating, mashallah. I am intimidated to even be anywhere near them. Rania is a California girl. Rania is a fellow California girl. Who's a California? Who's from California? Yes, give it up for California. Another California girl. So it's Team California up here. Rania is the head of Google for Education and the Middle East and North Africa. And she's been with Google since 2003. You're too young, honey. You're too young to have been with 2003. She was like 12 when she started with Google. She's so cute. So she's had several She's had several roles at Google, overseeing sales as well partnerships to support, educate, and enable various professional ecosystems in the MENA region. So, like I said, I'm only going to give you what I think is the really prominent things as part of their bios. And next one on the panel is Dana Dajani. Dana has the Human Spirit Project. Dana, I have a girl crush on Dana. Everyone should know. Dana is my girl crush, and I made sure that the event was planned so that she could be here because she's got the travel schedule of Emirates crew, basically. So I met Dana years and years ago. We did improv together, and I think you were doing some stand-up, and it was just phenomenal. I couldn't keep away from her. So she's based in the UAE. She's a performer, a writer, a presenter, a consultant, a trainer, and just is kind of all over the world, from performing to theater, doing you don't do stand-up anymore, do you? Spoken word. She's going to explain what spoken word is, the difference between, somebody asked me and I don't know, so I'll embarrass myself. It's the difference between spoken word and poetry. So we're going to cover that. Dana has, okay, so the other reason that I forgot to tell you, the reason that there's a panelist missing. Okay, so the reason they were chosen, basically, to be on this panel was they've each won in their own right awards. So Dana's won, Dana was honored as Emirates Women Artist of the Year and received Young Arab Award for Entertainment in 2016. She was also recognized by Saudi Arabia as one of the 50 influential and inspirational women in the UAE. MashaAllah. Oh, and you have a book and you're an author. Okay, this goes on. I'm feeling less and less confident as I read these. Who do we have? Then we have Alia. Alia and I go way back. Another California girl here. She is my co-producer in this event. She's my conscience also. So Alia is the founder and chairwoman of Islamic Fashion Design Council, an organization established for the development of Islamic fashion and design industry worldwide. The rest of the bio is really long. She's really all over the place, mashallah, mashallah. But like I said, I'm gonna bring this on to our page so you guys can read it at your leisure. And Alia's also won. What was the award you won? You won an award. Skip it. No, that's important. She's been nominated. I'm going to tell them. I'm not listening. She's been nominated as Businesswoman of the Year by CEO Magazine. See, I told you it was important. And Entrepreneur of the Year by Gulf Business News. In the Dubai 100 list is listed in one of the 50 most influential Arab women in the Arab world. Woohoo! Okay, don't feel bad. Don't feel bad. I know. Okay, so the Maya Aitani is also supposed to be here. There's been a schedule conflict. She may or may not show up, but I'll tell you about her when she comes. Last but absolutely not least is Zaina. Zaina Abu Sha'ban. Zaina, let me just tell you really quickly. I'll get going. But Zaina, I met in a van. It's not what it sounds like. We were going to an event in Abu Dhabi for autism, an autism fundraiser, and Zaina was in the car, and it was myself and Zaina and Yasmin Saib, if you know Live It Up Uganda. And so I was fascinated by what Zaina does, and I'll tell you what she does. But I was so intrigued by what she does that I was like, oh, I want to do stuff like that. That's cool. She's like, I want to do Habitat for Humanity, and she's like, why? So you can just do this? Like, look at me, look what I did. And I went, yeah, why do I want to do that? And she said, how are you helping them? And I thought, aren't I helping them? I'm building a house. And she said, no, you're not helping them. She said, you want to help them? She said, you give them the skills, you give them the tools, and you teach them how to build their own house. When you leave that site, they don't have your skills, so they won't have it. So that's what she's still doing. And Zaina's been named as one of the most 100 influential young Arab leaders under 40, Arabian Magazine, 2015, 2016, and 2018. Mashallah. She's also receiver of the Best Woman Entrepreneurs Prize, MIT Arab Competition 2014, winner of the Emirates World Women Humanitarian Award 2013. So, having introduced everyone, you guys, I'm going to post the rest of this on our Instagram page. It's Teach Your Gift. Teach Your Gift is the handle. Oh, thank you. Oh, and I forgot, Samir. We have to thank Samir, who's televising this live for us. And he's our fabulous tech guy, so we thank him and are appreciative. I'm going to hand over to Ms. Rania.
Thank you, Mai. So I wanted to start out today by telling you a definition that I found on the internet. The topic of today is pathways to success. So I thought, let me look up what success means. It's the favorable or prosperous termination of attempts or endeavors, the accomplishments of one's goals, can also be defined as the attainment of wealth, position, honors, or the like. Now, I'm sure you all came here to listen to me read something from the internet. Hopefully you didn't. But the reason I bring this up is for you to reflect and to think about what success means for you. And we have an amazing panel, and they'll be sharing their pathways to success. But use this time to also reflect about what success means to you, so that we can all benefit from the session tonight. Sound good? All right, so we'll get started right away with the questions. And the first question is for Zaina. So now that I've read to you what success is officially defined as, what is your definition of success? And what did it look like on the journey that you took to get to where you are today?
I think success is more of a journey, as you said. It's steps you take to fulfill your life's purpose, and everyone has different purposes in life, but many of us, like one of a main purpose is helping others. So 10 years ago when we started Palestine, the main idea was basically to empower refugee women. I'm Palestinian, and at that time I've never encountered refugee life. So the first success step was actually going to a refugee camp, meeting those inspirational women who do embroidery with all love and pride, and that's when the business model came to life, basically, that why don't we incorporate this beautiful embroidery into luxury handbags with Arabic calligraphy, and we sell them. I mean, we sell them and show the world what beautiful culture we have. We empower the refugee women, and at the same time, percentage of the sales goes to social development projects inside the refugee camp. So that was the first step. Then along the way, you know, you have other milestones which start telling you, yeah, you're going to your purpose. One of them was actually being in the high-end department stores. And now, I mean, when we look at it, we're still far away. But knowing that we managed to benefit around 4,000 refugees and empower women in embroidery jobs, it tells us we're doing something right, but we're not there, and it's a journey.
Alia, can you share your story with us?
That's a great question. Success. Success is an evolutionary process. I think the definition of it keeps changing and evolving as you do. For me, I've always learned that character is a very big part of determining and denoting how someone becomes successful. So I learned a long time ago, one of my teachers taught me that sincerity is power. So there's no way that we can be successful without putting sincerity in everything that we do. And that has to be about someone outside of yourself. To be sincere to yourself isn't exactly the highest definition of success. So when you can actually enjoy your journey of whatever success it is that you're visualizing for yourself, that sincerity that you apply to everyone along the way is what actually defines the holistic approach to success. So, so for me, I think it's a constant process of always taming yourself. You know, it's very hard out there in the business world and in the work capacity in general. So to be able to control your tongue, your mind, your ears, you know, and to be able to control your temperament when things get really stressful, and we all know what stress feels like, these are all integral parts of that holistic success that we're talking about. And I'm sure we all have our journey, we all have our struggles, and I know I fall many times, and I know when I've fallen really badly because there's this mechanism in my heart that tells me, you know what, you didn't do so well, you could have done better. So it's always this constant struggle with yourself to do better. So that's what success is.
And Dana, for you in the performing arts, the path probably takes many shapes and forms. What was your journey like, or what has your journey been like?
Well, I would have to agree it's definitely evolutionary, because when I left theater school, I defined success as the ability to support myself and others through humanitarian work by doing what I love. That to me was a big credential. And at the time that was theater, it was performance, and it was writing. And of course, as you said, it's definitely been a journey that's taken me down many different pathways, because when I moved to Dubai, I had to find the way to apply those creative skills within various corporate and consumer contexts, right? To find the way to still be doing what I love within a context that is going to be able to give back to me so that I can keep giving back to myself creatively and giving back to my community. But what I've found also is that my definition has evolved. So no longer do I define success just by being able to support myself and others. But now, 8 years down the line of being in Dubai, and I've done such a vast variety of projects and work. It's no longer just about financial security for me. That's no longer a means to define success, whereas when I was much younger, that really was. But now, success to me is to be able to really embody my values through all of my actions. So to not really compromise whether my value is to take care of the environment or to take care of the people around me or to stand by certain principles. And so, yeah, my definition of success has shifted towards truly embodying my values.
And was there a particular point at which you were able to clearly define that? Because I think with people on their journeys, it's generally a struggle. Some people have a very clear idea of what it is they want to do, and therefore success becomes quite tangible. But if you don't know sort of where do you begin? And did you have a point where something clicked?
Well, I was very fortunate when I graduated with my BFA. I had to write an artist manifesto. And I really shudder to think about who I would be if I didn't have to define those terms of who I will be as a creator, as an artist, before setting out. Because if my intention was just to be famous, I would have taken any job that came along the way. But because I had defined for myself what my artistic principles are, I want to tell stories that unite humanity, that highlight our commonalities, that really illuminate that these commonalities outweigh our perceived differences. I don't want to feed into the stereotypes. I don't want to be sexualized in my work. If I had not defined those values before setting out, then I would have taken any hayallah job along the way. But what I found is that I'm constantly reevaluating what those values are. And I come back to this manifesto years later and I find, yeah, I still stand by all of these and more and more. So it is evolutionary, definitely.
And Alia, did you also find that there was a similar point or a similar time at which you decided what it is those values were, or what it is that defined success for you?
I think the theme about my values kept coming back to gratitude. I don't know, I've come to a point where I actually put every cell in my body into check. And I really need to ask myself, are my values intact? And another teacher of mine once taught me that you should always build your values on sound ideology, because it's so easy to get values from friends or schoolmates or business colleagues, and they may not necessarily be based on sound ideology. And I'm not going to define sound ideology because that might get into a religious context, but whatever you feel is your source of sound ideology, and ideally it should be outside of yourself. A third teacher of mine told me once that there's two types of walis. If you speak Arabic or if you're from the Muslim background, wali is a friend. And so there's wali Allah and wali shaitan. There's never wali self. I don't know if everybody understood that, but I'm happy to elaborate maybe after the talk. But that was a very profound moment for me when I realized that I shouldn't be trusting myself to build my values. I shouldn't be trusting my own ideology. I should be trusting a very sound ideology. So for me, it was like this check that I put myself into from head to toe on a daily basis, which was am I really exuding that level of gratitude? Am I really exuding that level of light that I need to repel what's not right for me and to attract what's good for me so that I can then give it back to the world? So that was a big part of it.
So the next question for Zina is around that defining moment, because you had a shift in your career pretty early on where you were in the corporate world but decided it wasn't for you. What happened? Describe to us that time in your life.
I think from when I graduated, I was surrounded by people who really believed in the entrepreneurial spirit. So going into the corporate world at that time was the right thing to do, is the normal thing to do. So, and I did that. And I remember the first instant I stepped into Procter & Gamble on the first day of my job, I thought, whoa, I'll be soon out of here, It didn't feel right. And now as I move on, and while you were answering, Alia, it just reflected on me. It didn't feel right back then. And although the value is usually clear, but for me, I've never found inner peace. And at that time, it didn't feel right. And I realized to find this inner peace, your mind, your body, your heart, everything has to be congruent together. And this is really the journey of congruence. At that time, it was the defining moment that, yeah, it's not right for me, I should be doing something else. When I did something else, Palestine, there are always defining moments that, are you really in congruence? Are you really at inner peace? It's a journey, not yet, but at least now I can define what's inner peace. Yeah.
Was there any particular or specific moment that you'd be willing to share with us that made you feel that way?
It's really, I think there are lots of moments which come together, but to me it was just the definition that everything has to be connected, your heart, your mind, your body, your soul, and plus you have to be assertive about it. You can't shy away. And being assertive is it really helps in this connection, and you're just true to yourself and to others.
So we'll shift gears slightly because I think it's clear that, mashallah, you've all had successful careers and projects and so on. But the road is very bumpy sometimes. And hopefully we all get the chance to reflect on what we've done in our past and think about what we could have done differently. Dana, if you could go back to yourself, 5, 10, 15 years ago, is there anything that you would say, maybe I should have done that differently? Maybe my path would have been a little bit different had I taken that different step.
Yes, I think I would tell myself, feel free to set boundaries. Feel free to stand by those limits assertively, coming back to that, with no fear. Don't be delicate, don't tiptoe around it, don't try it out just to be not perceived as, a difficult person. Really stand by whatever it is that you want to do, whether that's your vision or that's your limit or that's your dream or that's your ideal. And don't be so influenced. Be ready to say no. That's okay. Well, I don't know why. When I was younger, I was so scared of the word no. I just wanted to please. I really just wanted to show that I'm a go-getter and I can do everything and look how versatile I am and I can take on you and me. But now as I've gotten a bit more mature and experience in the various industries, I'm very happy to say, nope, this is exactly what I want to be doing and I'm comfortable within those limitations, yeah.
Alia.
As a rule, I try not to say if I could go back, I would do this. However, I do wish that someone would have taught me more about how to manage the ego. I think that's something that we learn as we go along in life, and I think a lot of us aren't even aware of, what our ego is and what it can do and how damaging it can be. I just recently read a book called Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday, and I really, really recommend it to you guys. Because what it does is it actually puts it in front of you, and there's so many parts of this book that are just naturally relatable, I think, to us, to me anyway. And I was thinking, wow, okay, so that's ego too, and it made sense the way he draws it out for you as to what ego is and why it's dangerous. And his whole case study is that, you don't need to strive for fame, you don't need to strive for success as in the meaning of success that the material world will tell you, which equals money or the big car or the big house. And then he gives you all these case studies of all these people that were completely understated, that didn't care about getting the credit, that didn't care about getting the notoriety, the fame and whatnot. And what they actually did was left a lasting impression on this planet. So he really, it was so profound, the way he sort of he talks about Malcolm X, and he argues that Malcolm X was actually too big of an ego, and a friend of mine who was actually studying, psychology and ego and whatnot, she said, yes, because anyone that leaves their name to something naturally has some ego attached to it, even if they don't intend for that to be the case. Just that whole topic of ego and wishing that perhaps when I was growing up, someone had taught me how to be aware of my ego and how to contain it and how to maybe start working towards diminishing it, because it's a lifelong process. It always creeps up, that dang thing. It never goes away for good. So you're always having to be on your toes when it comes to the ego.
Zaina? Could you answer that? Yeah.
Yeah. Can you remind me of the question, please? Could you remind me of the question?
Well, actually, you know what? We'll shift to another question because there's a few discussion points that I still want to get to. And one of the things that I realize now that we've been a few minutes into the panel, and I'm actually thrilled about, is that we're an all-female panel, but the fact that we are all-female hasn't come up as an issue or a challenge. And that's something that I'm very proud. I'm very proud that that hasn't come up. But I also believe that there must have been some challenges that did arise as a result of being a female. Could you describe that? Or is there anything that set you back, or that any challenges that you faced being a female in the Arab world? We'll start with Zaina.
I think in my entrepreneurial journey, it would be more of actually the skills, basically, to get through the overwhelming experience of suddenly having, to run your business and your expectations. And especially being a female at that early age, I feel managerial skills are lacking, and focusing towards managerial skills to females is a great tool to facilitate their success, especially in the entrepreneurial journey. In general, it would be limited, in our case, it would be limited access to capital, which is, yes, for males and females, but according to recent surveys, usually females face more difficulties in accessing funds from venture capitalists. Those would be for me.
And what have you done to try to combat that?
I mean, for the skills, it's again a journey. So what I learned the hard way is ask for help, When you feel it's a rough ride, you need to seek the right mentor and really ask for guidance. And this goes back again to the ego we were talking about. Because when you're starting off, there's this weird mix of ego and insecurities, which makes it hard to admit that, yes, it's tough and I need some help right here. Once you mature and you gain more experience, it becomes easier for you to talk about it and actually ask for that help. So mentorship for sure. And just the learnings, the whole process. And when it comes to capital access, you just need to knock doors hard, not shy away, improve your business plans and strategies every now and then, and it's going to happen at some point, yeah.
Alia?
So this woman thing, this question comes up a lot, right? Like, so what were your struggles, and did you, find that it was a little bit harder, or what was different being a woman in this world? And honestly, I don't think like that. And it maybe there have been, it's just never occurred to me. Normally when things don't happen for me, or when doors close for me, or when someone treats me in a different way, my first instinct is never to think, oh, it's because I'm a woman that I didn't get, this funding or this door opening or this opportunity. Normally what I think is it's me. I need to go back to the drawing board, and I need to work harder, and I need to, make my skills sharper and do better. So I think, as we evolve more and more as a modern world, I think this lingo about men, women, gender wars and all that, I think can be very dangerous. And I think it's very important. It's one thing to fight the battle of wanting to be equal, which is not my battle. I don't want to be equal to a man. I think that I like celebrating, our differences, and I like celebrating our varying strengths, and that's what makes the world go around, is that we all have our different places in life. So I'm okay with that. Alhamdulillah, maybe it's because I've had a good experience being a woman, so I'm happy with that experience. But I think what is more important today is the ability to celebrate each other and the ability to raise up the other gender. It's okay to applaud men, I think, many times in your life, because men do a lot of amazing things, and never point fingers at men when doors close for you as a woman. I think that kind of talk can be a little bit dangerous. So that would probably be my answer to the female question.
Dana, have you experienced a similar view, or is it
very different view? Actually, my experience working within the arts, I've had to not only encounter narratives that show very diminished female characters, where even the protagonist is depicted through a male's lens. She's two-dimensional, she's a caricature of herself. So encountering those stories and then choosing, am I going to participate in these narratives, or am I going to be part of writing my own narrative? So there's that on one hand. On the other hand, I've also encountered a lot of just men who are willing to test my boundaries in terms of how close they can get to me, because I'm a pretty young girl and, oh, you're coming up, and having to recognize that I feel violated perhaps in this situation, and having to set my boundaries in this situation to a superior. I mean, definitely right now we're in the dawn of the Me Too movement, and this was something that I really struggled with, whether it was with a filmmaker, or it was with an events planner, or it was with a client, or it's too many times that I've experienced inappropriate behavior from men. So that was definitely a struggle. And then the third time I feel like my gender has kind of come up as a bit of a challenge for me in what I've done has been from my family, actually. Because when I told them I wanted to pursue theater, the first reaction was, well, ما في شرف إلنا بنتنا تكون ممثلة. There's no honor for us, for our daughter to be an actress. And who's going to marry you if you're on stage kissing someone, or you've done so-and-so, and you're traveling around the world? Just settle down and be calm, and all will be okay, you know? So those are just some of the challenges, but I definitely feel like it has been an effort for me to, and I almost feel like I've started to lean towards the masculine in how I present myself, or going away from being hyper feminine, so that I can be, even I noticed that my voice has dropped from 10 years ago, because I used to talk like this used to be how I talked. But now I'm much more comfortable in this grounded and more assertive, almost masculine energy, and I feel like it's served me quite a bit.
And you were sort of able to reconcile that, desire, your family's desires, with what you personally wanted. How did you go about that? Because I think that's something that that many females would struggle with in this part of the world, and especially related to performing arts or other various fields, right? There are certain expectations of the type of work that women should do. So how did you actually practically deal with that? You're okay with sharing, of course.
I left home. I said, if I had a choice to live one life for you, Mama, Baba, and one life for me, I would do those two. But I can't spend 4 years studying something and then the rest of my life working in that industry, which doesn't really feed my soul. So I had to take a very bold stance to let them know that I'm not willing to compromise on this in my life, which was very painful for a very long time. But over the years, we've reconciled, and alhamdulillah, now my parents are very proud of what I do, and they recognize that. It's funny because even though I finished my degree and I came back to Dubai, and my mom said, okay, you got your degree, now get a real job. She still didn't want me to do work within the theater. And eventually, when my spoken word poetry started to get out, and her friends started to message her my poem and say, hi bintek, eventually she started to this idea of, إيش رح يحكوا الناس? What are people going to say? What are people going to say? That disappeared. And then eventually one day she came to me and she said, Dana, I'm upset with you. I said, why, Mama? She said, you haven't written anything about Syria. It's been years. Why haven't you written something about it? And so now she's empowering me and expecting me to start to take on that role, because she knows that that's where my passion and that's where my voice really shines. So.
That's fantastic. Yeah. So we've talked a bit about how particular values or goals have defined your path to success. My next question is really around if there are people, so specific role models that you had, that you were really able to draw from and look to for inspiration, for guidance, for mentorship. Because I think sometimes those who are aspiring to succeed in a particular area or role or project or career, it's a challenge when you don't necessarily have someone to look up to or someone to even reach out to for practical advice. Have you had role models? Have you had mentors? What was your relationship like with your own network?
For me, I feel like these role models sort of pop up in my life from time to time, and they surprise me. And I've actually said this story before, but I mean, it really sort of left a mark with me. Sometimes I go running in the mornings, really early in the mornings, and I was sitting on the bench and I was putting on my shoes and I was getting ready to warm up and go for my run, and there was a much older Indian lady wearing a sari, and she wore one of those really typical sort of matronly saris, and she came and sat on the bench and did the same thing. She was putting on her sneakers and she was getting ready to go for her run in her sari, and this was just here by Burj Khalifa, and I looked at her and I was so inspired by her. I mean, she just didn't, stereotypically, I have to admit, I didn't expect that. I didn't expect her to be going for a run on the same track that I'm going for a run on. And she was clearly must have been late 60s, early 70s. I mean, she was, in the grandmother stage, but my goodness, that just inspired me. And I find myself doing that. And I love those moments, and that's what makes life so amazing, is that you're always finding people that say or do something to inspire you, unbeknownst to yourself. You don't expect it. You could be sitting at a cafe, or you could be, taking a Arabic class or something, and someone will say or do something, and you'll say, "Oh my God, I've got to be more like that," And I have to say, because there's so many familiar faces in the audience, and you guys are a part of a very special community that we all belong to, and we have this WhatsApp group chat, and I tell you, I get humbled every day when I read posts on this group, because there is just such amazing things happening. And sure enough, in any given week, there's 2 or 3 minimum moments of inspiration for me where I'm just like, I have to be more like that. So for me, I think it's life's day-to-day common people that I like to surround myself with that are my inspiration.
We're always asked as kids, who's your role model, who's the person you look up to, and I was never able to answer that, but along the way, I realized a lot of what you're saying, that there are different role models, really, and it's okay to have at each area in your life one of them. And to me, in my area, which was social business and social entrepreneurship, it was definitely Dr. Muhammad Yunus. I mean, his work was just incredible. He suffered a lot with his mom, with his mom falling sick at a young age, and it was just heartbreaking. But here comes a man who actually just turned the wheel when it comes to banking, social banking, when it comes to funding and social businesses. And I mean, I didn't meet him yet. I wish I would. And till this day, I get inspired by his life and what he has given to humanity, and the innovation, true innovation in its sense.
Thank you.
I think mentors are so important. I've had various mentors, whether they were cousins or teachers or friends, peers, who, because what I do is so vastly spread out. There's theater and there's spoken word and there's emceeing and there's music, and it's been hard to find someone who does all of that range of things. It's been very difficult, but within the different silos, within the different industries, I've been very inspired by, again, someone's tenacity, or someone's wit, or someone's dedication and motivation, self-motivation, somebody else's fearlessness on stage, the way somebody else combines 2 different genres. So again, I think that inspiration comes every day, and we have to be open to receive that, because it's very humbling. Yeah.
So I think on that note of inspiration coming from anywhere, it reminds me that ideas also come from anywhere. So I'd like to actually pause from my questions and look to you to ask any questions that you have for our panel. And just raise your hand and I'll bring the mic over to you. Or
Oh, don't make me ask all the questions.
Or you can just pick on people randomly.
Okay. Yasmin wants to ask a question.
Dana, I just wanted to ask you, first of all, I'm a huge fan. And I just wanted to ask you how the idea of the video you and Lara Sawalha made to address Danny Ayalon's claims came about, please. So if you can tell us that, that would be great.
You're Nisreen, by the way?
Yasmin.
Yasmin.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. So this video is called The Real Truth About Palestine. And it was made in response to a video created by Danny Ayalon, who was the Israeli Minister of Foreign Affairs. And he created a very beautiful looking animated propaganda video. And so it was with a group, if anybody knows Visualizing Palestine. So Visualizing Palestine was one of our production teams behind this video, as well as Kharabish. Back in the days, Kharabish was not a multi-channel network on YouTube. They were like a little animation house, Bilwebde, on Rainbow Street, actually. And a few other people. There was a writer who prefers to remain anonymous, and producer Jamil Abu Warde, who's done a lot of stand-up comedy stuff around the region. So we all kind of got together. They sent Lara and I the script, and they said, "What do you think? Shall we do it?" And so we filmed this actually in late 2012. And then it took Kharabish such a long time because everybody contributed to this project out of pocket, out of their own initiative. And it took the animators such a long time to finish animating the video that I forgot about it. I thought, oh, it's one of those projects that's never going to see the light of day. And then all of a sudden, late 2013, a friend messages me and says, "Is this you?" Kharabish didn't even tell us that they released the film. And I was actually supposed to be in Palestine the next weekend, which would have been a bit disastrous because I ended up getting so much hate mail, death threats. All of my social media accounts were attacked by Israelis and American Jews. But it was a very impactful video. So impactful, as a matter of fact, that Danny Ayalon responded to our response. And it instigated what could have been a dialogue, but at the time we weren't really prepared as individuals who, I mean, it took us 2 years to get another video out, we weren't prepared to engage with him that way, but that just goes to show you the power of art in a way. I mean, we were able to engage with him. So that's the history of that project.
What's your sister's name?
May, is there a question?
Hiba has a question. I forced it on her. Actually, yeah, Hiba's going to ask a question, and then I'll come to the front.
Hi. This is just for anybody. When you guys won your awards, did it motivate you to push yourself harder, or did you want to change and do something new?
Honestly, when we won the Emirates Women Award, and it was a recognition to the refugee women, who were working so hard on the embroidery, and the love and pride they have despite all their harsh conditions is just amazing. And they are really the heroes and the inspiration behind Palestine and the reason for the social business. So it was a recognition. It was nice to feel it for them, and it definitely pushes you that you're on the right track. There's steps and they're leading somewhere. Yeah, thank you.
Question? Oh, she wanted more than one person to answer.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think awards are really never about the person who receives them. It's about their work and the people that bring their work to the forefront. And I mean, with all due respect, I think awards can also be pretty random in the sense that, you happen to be the one that was in their eye at that point, at least for how I feel. And I know that, awards are merited by a lot of the award winners, but there's so many unsung heroes, that I've always felt every time I've been nominated or I've won something, I've always felt that there is someone more deserving and better. So I think, it's a very humbling experience, and you genuinely want to celebrate it and share it with like everyone that deserves that type of recognition. So to me, that's what awards are about. It's about other people.
I would have to agree. I thought the award was very random because it came after years of doing poetry work, a drama therapy program for children with autism, a project here, a project there. I didn't know what I was being awarded for specifically, for one. And for two, I felt like it was a great recognition, maybe on the broad scope of the work that I've done, amazing, and I definitely wanted to celebrate all of my collaborators in those various projects. But I also thought, well, is this it? Like, this is the pinnacle of success in Dubai, is to get this kind of award? And what does it mean for me? Honestly, it didn't really open up doors. There weren't any opportunities that came from it. I would have really loved for this award to come with a residency. Okay, Dana, you're Artist of the Year. Here you have a month at Dubai Opera and you have a couple thousand dirhams. Create something for the community. That to me would have been like, okay, recognition and a door. But just to have a pat on the back really kind of frustrated me. And I don't know if you asked this, Hiba, or because May put it on you, or because you know, but actually I thought, okay, I'm done in Dubai. And I moved to Amman. And I set up my base in Amman because I thought I want to shift my focus to environmental projects because I've done what I can do here. And I didn't feel satisfied in the way that I thought success should feel, you know? So that was my experience.
So I just want to continue on that note and ask you.
Sorry, just one more. There was one more.
We'll come back to it. Yeah.
Sorry, Sana.
I promise, we'll come back. So on the note of that, getting an award is fantastic, but it doesn't necessarily lead to the next thing. Do you have that next thing in mind? Do you know what it is that you want to achieve next, what that next success would look like?
Start with you. Can I take this? Yes, kind of. For me, the idea of success right now, or the next project, let's say I would like to achieve, success aside, is a project I was mentioning to you about my grandmother's dresses. So that is something I'm very excited to work on. My grandmother used to live in Jerusalem, and she had a boutique called Petit Paris. She would go with my grandfather, who used to work for different airlines, and she would travel with him to different cities around the world and buy dresses and sell them in Jerusalem. And when they left Jerusalem, she traveled with him around the world with his job. And recently I inherited 4 suitcases of dresses from her, about 200 dresses. Each one of them is a different character, a different woman, a different persona. And so what I'm doing is using these dresses to go through, so there's Dana's ancestry, her teta, and then using these dresses to access the universal, the archetypal feminine energies, because each dress is a different kind of feminine persona. So that's my next project.
I think that's my next project, working on her dresses. I think that's fantastic. I'd like to get my hands on those dresses. I think the most interesting thing about life that I've learned is to not make too many plans and not to define too much of what you're planning to do or what your next step is, because you'll always get surprised and it'll humble you. So I think what I normally do, and I read this actually when I was first starting out, that all the successful people, the one common thread between all of them was that they had several balls in the air, and not all of them would hit. But the fact that they had several of them gave them better chances at hitting something that the market or their consumers or their target base would take to. So we've always done that at IFDC. We've always had several things in the air, and some have hit right away, and some have taken a very long time to hit. And so, you know, we've learned that you've always got to be interesting. You've always got to excite yourself about your work first and foremost. But then you've always got to be interesting to your market and let them know everything that you're doing, and then let them choose what your next success is going to be. And that's always been our key to success, is that we've never planned it. We actually let the market plan it.
So success, and like on a personal and business level right now, it would be really adapting while staying congruent. Because on a business level, I mean, the whole market is changing. Your customers are changing. There's a mental shift in everywhere when it goes to spending, to dressing up, everything. So it would be being able to adapt while being true to the brand's core value, and that is also definitely on a personal level. Those are the next plans, basically.
May.
Samit.
Check.
Yeah, it's working. You guys are all very successful, mashallah. But at some point, you guys have started figuring out what you want to do in life, and then, and probably this is more towards an artist, because when you do your work, there is an audience, and then there is a critique about your work, right? So how do you cater that self-doubt and the fear of criticism? Because of course your work is going to be seen, and then there's this thing that what people are going to say. Am I doing the right thing? Did I did that right? Or should I just stop at some point? So how do you deal with those fears?
Gosh, this is such a great question. Okay, sometimes I feel like a crazy person because I write these epic poems that are 8 minutes long, and they're all in verse, and they're not everyone's cup of tea, you know? When I wrote Love Letters from Palestine, which is probably my most successful poem, if you want to say, measure success in terms of it went viral, but also it's one of the poems that I measure the success because by how many dry faces there are in the room as opposed to wet faces, right? That it can move people to feel with me. So when I wrote that poem, I wrote it for an event for the Jumeirah Rotaract Club. Somebody said, we're doing an event called Dance for Palestine, and it's primarily a dance event, but we want a performer. Will you write something? This was in 2012. And at that point, I hadn't been back to Palestine since the early 90s. And so I felt like I couldn't write as Dana. And so I created this character of a Hajjah, and I wrote the poem through her perspective because I could tell a universal story. I wasn't limited to Dana's experience. Now that's great. I worked on it for weeks. I come and I'm doing the sound check at the event, and I'm reading the poem. And the head of the Rotaract Club says, no, it's too aggressive, perform something else. Ripped it up, threw it away, did not look at it for 2 years. Until I was in Palestine, and I was with a friend, Hanan, and she's a documentary filmmaker, and she said, let's film something while we're here. What can we film? I said, look, I have this poem, Hanan, but it's not very good. It's rather aggressive. And she's like, no, let me hear it. So I shared it with her, and she insisted that I perform this poem for every single person I met in Palestine for the remaining 2 weeks. And by the end of those 2 weeks, I understood that I wasn't crazy, it's not nonsense, the poem is impactful, it just didn't resonate with that one person. And so this experience was, the poem was dead for 2 years. But this experience has been so informative for me moving forward, because whenever I have that doubt, I say, let the market decide. Let people decide what my next success is, because I know it's not going to resonate with 100% of audiences. But even if it resonates with one person and me, that's enough for me to get it out there, honestly. And I think you've got to thicken your skin and take everything that people say with a grain of salt, because your tastes differ, and your taste is what sets you apart and makes you unique, and what is gonna make people celebrate you.
Okay, we have last question for now.
Okay, so no one is able to have it all. Sometimes you have to make compromises or sacrifices to achieve your success. What was your challenge?
Who is this addressed to, or everyone?
All of them, okay. if there's time.
I think I was my biggest challenge. You know, it just goes back to, once again, just getting out of your own way. You know, when you're so headstrong, I think as I was, you know, you're just so focused. You're like, you know, you kind of want things to happen a certain way. And I think that when you gain that maturity to not have such expectations and to actually be okay with whatever unfolds and make something of it, that's, I think, when you're able to let go and really let that success being an evolutionary process happen for you. So I would say I was my biggest challenge, and probably still am. You know, I think that if we can continue to manage ourselves and remove ourselves from the process. You know, I teach these classes, and the first thing that I tell the students, Mo knows this because I did one of her master classes for her, is that when you have a vision, your vision has to be beyond your own lifetime. So I make the students, you know, chart their age from today, 2018 to 3008, and then they stop somewhere around like whatever 2098 or whatever, because you know they start laughing and they say that we're not going to live that long, or you know we'll be dead by then, or you know we'll be too old or whatever. And that's exactly the point. It's not about you. Your vision, if it's a sound vision, if it's a real vision, should be beyond your lifetime. And that's where you get humbled. And I always give the example of, because we, you know, deal with a lot of designers and we deal with a lot of the fashion industry, I give the example of Coco Chanel. Her vision was very simple. It was that every woman throughout the ages, the one thing that she inclines herself towards is simplicity, but not forgoing the elegance and the beauty. And that vision outlasted her. And to this day, there's 4 iconic items that you must have if you're a woman or a fan of Coco Chanel, which is the jacket. I'm going to let Zaina tell us because she's epitomized that in her work. Where is this going to go when you're no longer around?
Thank you, Ali.
So the question, I think, also wanted to address the sacrifices and challenges as well that you had to face. So
For me, I feel it was missing lots of opportunities of actually enjoying life rather than sitting and doing things, worrying that is this going to work, it's not going to work, you know, did I reach the success I want to in the eyes of the people around me who are really challenging me every single day. So all those worries and missing those opportunities of really enjoying life, especially at the earlier stages, yeah, for me were part of the sacrifices. And then specifically working with, in my business setup, working with family members, with certain family members, I always found it hard to work with family. And looking back, I would rather avoid working with family to keep the relationship strong. But you learn a lot out of it, and you really stretch completely, and you adapt completely just with this experience, and you naturally realize that family is what's important, and the experience has actually stretched you. That was to me like a challenge, a sacrifice at the same time. Yeah.
Okay, so there's been a request for one last question. Apparently you have wasta. Who do you know up there?
I'm not sure if it's a question or an observation or whatever, but just as you girls are talking, and thank you so much. It's really inspirational to hear you guys' stories and all of that. It was just something struck me as you guys were talking over the various questions. You know, I think that when your work has maybe a slightly higher purpose than maybe your regular 9 to 5 or something like that, your work becomes your life becomes your work. It's very, very difficult to kind of switch off But at the same time, you need that clarity of mind and peace of mind yourself in order to kind of progress what you are trying to do in the bigger scheme of things or the bigger picture. So I just wondered, how do you guys deal with that yourselves? Because it can be quite conflicting because you're very busy and you're very, you know, it's very hard to switch off when you're doing jobs like you guys have. So I just wondered how you dealt with that.
Personally, I like to be very clear in outlining and defining what my targets are, what my values are, what my KPIs are. Now, these are interpersonal, these are not commercial, but it's, for me, I have a process where I start off every journal with my vision, and I write out that vision, and then I break it down into a long-term to-do list and a short, like near future to-do list and an immediate to-do list. And I'm constantly coming back to it and referencing it. As the journal fades, I start another journal, I create a new vision. Is it consistent with the old vision? Has it been adapted slightly? And then I find new ways to make sure that I am self-aware of defining Dana. Actually, in this moment, is my self-image consistent with reality? And actually, I did one exercise where I defined, okay, Dana is an activist, she's an environmentalist, she's a writer, she's an actress, da-da-da-da. And then I put all of the projects that support these titles underneath them. And I found that even though I introduce myself as an actress and writer, I'm actually more of a writer-actress because I have so many more writing projects than I had acting projects. And actually, I'm more of an environmentalist than I am an actress because I have so many more environmental projects. So I'm constantly trying to reassess my own definition of my goals, my values, my targets. And these like self-development, I guess, tools I've kind of started to put into a book called Write Yourself, which is a guided journal, because I recognize that it's not intuitive to everyone to guide themselves through this kind of, it's like self-leadership process. So yeah, that to me is how I maintain that work-life balance and also motivate myself to get things done.
I think I need her book because I'm actually the biggest failure in this department. I'm really not good at being balanced, I have to admit. You know, I think family is very important. I definitely try to make time for family. I'm a terrible friend. You know, I don't go to a lot of the gatherings and whatnot. It's not because I don't want to. I actually genuinely want to. I just can't. And something's always got to give. And so for me, it's like working from early mornings till like late nights. Nothing really gives, you know. So that's a big challenge area for me. So I'm going to wait for Dana's book to come out, and then I'll answer the question a year after applying your book.
Honestly, I don't believe in work-life balance. So I believe like in every stage of your life, you give focus to a certain area, and like the focus you give in that area, you see the success in it, and like to try to maintain to try to maintain a strong base in it. So when you shift your focus, it runs automatically, and then your focus is in another area. But life-work balance has, yeah, something I don't believe in, but I do believe in disconnecting. So when the weekend comes, for example, I honestly disconnect. So I don't reply to emails, nothing like that, complete disconnection, yeah. Thank you.
So I hope with this last hour, you've reflected upon what success means for you after hearing from our panelists. There are certain commonalities that I think we all share, but it's really up to each of us to decide and to determine what success looks like for each of us. And I encourage you to reflect upon that as you leave tonight. One last thing that we'd like to share with you is that Dana will be performing a short poem, and it's her own risk, and that's all I'll say, and I'll hand it over to Dana, and we will close with that.
If you don't risk anything, you risk more. Because then what has your life been for? No risk, no pain, no love, no gain. Each day just more of the same. As the suns set and the moons wane, will you build a legacy in your name? Because your skin was made to scab, meant to heal. You were built to try, meant to feel. Explore the worlds within and without. Make bold choices, banish doubt. The risk itself is the reward. Put it all on the line. Feel open with no guard. Scale a mountain on your own. Courage is a love affair with the unknown. And when you find your way back home and safely, you'll understand what it means to be free. The freedom to give it all, to lose the certainty. Well, that is the gift of being me. Because if you never try, then you'll never grow. You'll never have scars to show. You'll never know how far you'd go with all the skills you've come to know. Because to risk stability for a life of creation is a divine act, God's manifestation. It's easy to take. Society is built on consumption, but she who has the guts to make, she actually serves a function to all of humanity. She transcends identity, reflects the human experience so that others may feel resonance in what they see. Art helps us to be understood in our community so we can feel love and empathy, and we risk comfort to create as empowered human beings. Because your skin was made to scab, meant to heal. You were built to try, meant to feel. If you don't risk anything, you risk more, because then what has your life been for? Thank you.
Aww. Can we all do that? Aww. That was such a good one to end on. Like, I don't even want to say anything now. But I will. I always have something to say. See, we didn't even know that we knew Dana was going to do it, but we didn't even ask her what it was because we just had complete faith in her. Can we just do one round of applause for all the fabulous speakers? You've been inspirational, motivational, spiritual. We need your help, Patrick. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you to the panelists. Thank you, Rania. Thank you, Dana. Thank you, Alia. And thank you, Zaina. I'm going to let you guys mingle with them afterwards. We're going to do one last thing. I just want to remind you that the art is for sale. And that's the one I want. Yes, Rima was listening. That's the one I want, the meme. So the art is for sale. Please pay for your stuff. And we have a surprise. Oh.
Just want to thank everyone that joined us. TYG Night is never, ever going to be what it is and what it's becoming and how fast it's been growing. My co-producer May and I are very grateful to all the speakers, so just a small token of appreciation.
Oh.
So these gifts are from Dilma Tea. They're the sponsors of Artist Playground. And we just wanted to give something extra special to Rania, who prepared a wonderful panel for tonight. And please, if you don't know Dilma, please get familiar with them. They're truly the best tea in the world. I know because I've been involved with them from the beginning.
I like English breakfast tea, and this was amazing. I liked it. Yes, it's really good. Even the green tea.
I tried the green tea. Usually when you drink them, they sometimes have like aftertaste, but this was amazing. Like I drink it, I don't want to stop, I just want to finish it.
No, genuinely the best tea. So before you leave, please, everybody order some of their tea. And now the panelists are going to be mingling with all of you, so please feel free to come up and speak to us. We loved having you here. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank
Good
you,
night.
Alia, and thank you, May.
Huge round of applause for May and Alia as well. Thank you so much.